Good morning. It's so wonderful to be here. I want to discuss a little bit before we begin our topic. I want to discuss a little bit about Chanukah. So, we know the great miracle that happened to the Jewish people is that we had only one after the temple was defiled. We won them, and what did we find? We only found one little flask of oil. Flask that should have remained for only one day of the menorah lighting. And there was a miracle that it lasted 8 days. And because that's how long it took for them to process new oil. That's how long it would take for it to be ready for them to have it. By the time the 9th day came, they already had fresh oil that was ready to be lit. So there are a couple of questions here. First is, it says that the oil is like every one of us is like oil. So we have to understand what that means. Why do we specifically light with oil? Why is the miracle for 8 days? It should be for 7 days, because for one day they already had enough. Right? For one day they had enough. So the first day wasn't a miracle. It was the other 7 days that was a miracle. So why don't we light 7 days? Why do we light 8 days? There are many other questions that could be asked. We're gonna approach this from several different. So the first thing is like this: oil and water can never mix, ever. And it says that the Jewish people are like oil. We can never mix. As much as we try to immerse ourselves in a secular culture, we will always be the oil that cannot integrate with water. And the nations of the world being water. Our job is always to rise to the top and be at the top as an example for the nations. That's our job. Now, it's very interesting that oil has a couple of very interesting components. How do you derive oil from olives? You press it. It's an amazing thing that, you know, when the Jewish people become fine? When we're pressed. When we're oppressed. When we have expulsions. When we have exterminations. That's when we become our finest. That's when we fight for what's right, and that's when we go out and do as much as we can to change, to bring God into this world. It's an amazing thing. If you look at every single time when the Jewish people were at the top, it comes after a huge low. It comes after, they get to the high after a huge low. I mean, just think right now. We had probably history's worst calamity in the Holocaust. And yet we find that immediately after the Holocaust, we have the establishment of the State of Israel. We have technology and we have wisdom that's being studied in the land of Israel. You have an unbelievable resurgence of Torah. Right? There isn't a generation in history that has more Torah study than ours. It's really quite remarkable. Right? Even if you think of Rabbi Akiva, he had 24,000 students. You have hundreds of thousands of students studying Torah all day, every day. It really is remarkable. But what is this? It's very interesting. A president sets the tone of the country's agenda, and the leading Torah scholars set the agenda for the Jewish people. And it's very interesting that you have something that has been going on in the past 70 years or so, since the establishment of the State of Israel till about 10, 15 years ago. That's when things started shifting, where there was one focus in the Torah community, and that is the study of Torah only. Torah, 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 Torah. And that's why there was a little bit of a discord between the Torah observant community and the non-Torah observant community in Israel regarding going to the army. Right? It's not that the rabbis think we should be selfish and not help out. That's not the idea. The idea is that after we had such a calamity of the Holocaust, where every yeshiva was destroyed except for some few, We need to reestablish the Torah. And that was what the rabbis were saying. We need to focus on Torah study, focus on Torah study, focus on Torah study. There will come a time, like there is today, the highest influx of soldiers to the army are from the religious community today. Last year was the first year there were the highest number of religious soldiers than any other category in Israel. And the reason is because the rabbis now say, okay, now it's established. You have Torah in all four corners of the world, right? We have to continue to grow. We have to continue to contribute. My father served in the IDF, right? Even though he was a yeshiva student, my father served there in 1973. He was there during the Yom Kippur War. So we're very firm believers. It's very interesting. I don't want to get into this too much, right? But I'll quickly tell you something. So everyone here is a Zionist? We agree? Okay, everyone's a Zionist? Yeah? Okay, great. Unanimous. So I will show you that we're all anti-Zionists too. Like me? Excuse me? Yeah. We're anti-Zionists. I'll tell you why. And we think, I'll tell you, very interesting. We think there are some Hasidic groups, sects, that are anti-Zionist. They still are till today. Okay, they haven't updated their files, but it's fine. So let me tell you why you're an anti-Zionist, okay? Because if you think about what Zionism was back in 1948, Zionism is not what it is today. The Zionism that we have today is that we have democracy, that we have everyone can choose what they want to do. That wasn't 1948. 1948, they wanted communism. Right? You have the kibbutz movement. The kibbutz movement was socialism or communism. I'm not sure what the difference is at that level, where the parents were separated from their children, right? The adults grew up in adult communities, and the children grew up in children communities, and that's what it was. You had no choice. Yes, sir. Herzl, yeah. Right, but he had a very clear intention, and we see this all the way up till the establishment of the State of Israel, and then even the first year, you had very, very strong anti-religious, anti-Jewish sentiment. You know that Herzl... That's what the Orthodox in the United States did, the one Zionists back then. Correct. And so you have Herzl, that he didn't give his children a bris. He made them marry Christians. Yeah, this is all true, right? He had a Christmas tree in his house, right? So here the founder, which is ironic because here's the founder of Zionism, wanted really nothing to do with Judaism, right? So that, if you look at Satmar, that's what they're opposed to. They're opposed because originally they did not want Torah study in the land of Israel. They wanted it to be a culture of Judaism, but not a religion of Judaism, not a relationship, right? So... And over the years, it's become very, very different. You have Menachem Begin, who was Shomer Shabbos, right? He was the prime minister of Israel in the 80s. You have, Bibi Netanyahu's children. Many of them are Shomer Shabbos, right? So it really is. It's a unique transformation that's gone on in the state of Israel. That's why there was always this opposition. There are many people in Israel today who don't take any money from the government because they consider it to be impure, right? Because it's the Zionists. Again, they can update their files maybe and see that today Zionism is it's a very different thing, and we're all very, very pro-Zionist, right? I hope, and we're all, I send money to Israel. I have 5 siblings who live in Jerusalem, right? So, there's no shortage of pro-Israel. I happen to have been born in Jerusalem, right? So it really is a special place, but it wasn't always like that. Chanukah, it says that the light of the menorah, it says kiner mitzvah v'torah or. He says, you want to know what a mitzvah is? A mitzvah is a candle. You want to know what Torah is? Torah is light. So the candle is light. It's very interesting. I think we didn't mention this here at this class, but here I'm going to take a napkin here. Okay. Now what happens if I take this napkin and I give it to Bobby? Who has the napkin? You have the napkin, not me. Same thing if I gave you $100, or if I took it and I gave it to you, who had the $100? You do, not me. And if you pass it on to the next person has it, not you. But if you take a candle that's lit and you light someone else's candle, you both have light. It's a very interesting thing. You know that if you do a mitzvah, or if you inspire someone else to do the mitzvah, so we think there's a finite amount of reward that God will give in the world to come. But it's not true. There's an infinite amount of reward. You know, a pyramid scheme has a limited amount of resources that has to be distributed. Right? So if, let's say through the scheme they made $100, so one will make $10, one will make $5, the next tier will make $2, the next tier will make $1, the next tier will make 50 cents, till they get down to everyone gets their share. Right? That's the way pyramid schemes work. So if I make a sale, someone else is making on my back some money, the person who signed me up. So you're constantly paying it. That's not the way it works with a mitzvah. It's not the way it works with inspiration. If someone else does a mitzvah because of you, you get the full 100% reward, and so do they. I think it's almost like, in this week's parsha we have Joseph. Joseph is the favored son of Jacob. So I've had people ask me, do I have any favorite children? I have 7 amazing children. Do I have any favorites? I said, of course I have. I have 7 favorites, right? Each one is a favorite, right? Each one really is. And I tell each one, you're my favorite child, right? Because they're so unique and different, right? It's not like if you take you line up a bunch of oranges, you can say which one is which one you like the most, which one has the better color, which one has the, fine. But when they're different, when you have an apple and an orange and a pear and a nectarine, and they're all different, so each one could be your favorite. Right? They're all different. Our children are all different. Every human being is different. Okay, so we have Chanukah. We have the candles that we light. Right? It's an amazing thing that we said the oil is because we're pressed. We're pressed. Whenever you press the olive, that's when the finest oil, and it's the first press, right? It's the boom. It's the first smash, right? That's when you get the purest, the most pristine. It's interesting that it says in the book of Numbers, right, in the portion of Bahalotcha, it says a very amazing thing. It says that when you light the menorah in your temple, in the halls of your temple, it really is a very interesting statement. It wasn't ours. I mean, it was the temple. The temple was in Jerusalem. The temple was wherever the Jewish people were traveling through the desert. But is the temple? No, please, no worries. It's great to see you. No worries. No worries. If I remember correctly, no worries. If I remember correctly, you learned the Daf Yomi, right? It's amazing. You see, the studies. He studies a daily folio of Talmud. You know what that is? That really is amazing. That's incredible. It's 1 page of Talmud every day. We start at 10-ish. We end at 11-ish. No problem. Sure.
About the number of Shomer Shabbos men and women that are now going into the military. God forbid there is a conflict. What happens on Shabbos?
For saving lives, there's that you can desecrate Shabbos. That's, by the way, not only in the military. That's also in law enforcement or emergency. So if someone is part of a emergency volunteer ambulance, I am one with here in Houston. We have Hatzalah. So if there's a call on Shabbos, you go.
Is that just for your neighborhood?
right now, because Houston is very, very spread out, so we're soon hopefully going to expand it to the Meyerland area and slowly expand to different areas. But the idea is like this. So we have Chanukah. So it says that Ve'idlakta nerot b'chatzot kachecha. You should light the menorah in the chatzot kachecha, in the area of your dwelling. Our sages tell us that our homes, when we light the menorah, becomes the temple. Our home becomes the Bet HaMikdash. It becomes the temple, and it becomes the place where the Kohen Gadol, right, where the high priest would come and light the menorah. That is each and every one of us when we light the menorah. It's very interesting because in many other places, my grandfather, I will talk about this another time when we talk about marriage and relationships. We'll get to there. My grandfather, when he got married, so my grandfather was about 32 years old at the time. And the Holocaust, and he met my grandmother. It's a whole amazing story how they met. But finally, he was in Israel at his Sheva Brachot, at the 7 days of celebration after the wedding. So one of the great rabbis approached him and said, "So tell me, in your home, what is the holiest room in your home?" So my grandfather says, "What do you mean? Where all my books are, my library, where I study." No. I said, no. He says, it's your bedroom. Your bedroom is called the Kodesh HaKodashim. It's the Holy of Holies. We can explain it a different time why, but this fits into the same exact definition that we're talking about, the Chanukah lights. It makes your whole home into a temple, right? It makes your whole home into a temple. You're now the Kohen Gadol who's lighting. You're the high priest who's lighting this menorah. And now it makes sense that different parts of your home have different values, right? There was a area which was called the chutzah, which was the yard, right? The courtyard. And then you had other parts. That's our home can be defined as a temple. Our sages define it as such. So we have all of these incredible ideas with regard to Chanukah, but we have to go back to our original question. Why do we celebrate it 8 days, not 7 days? Right? So the answer our sages tell us is, I'll start with a different piece of Talmud. The Talmud says that there was one Friday that one of the great sages, his daughter, went to the marketplace and she bought oil to light for the Shabbos candles. She comes home and she realized she didn't buy oil. She bought vinegar. Slight difference, right? She didn't buy oil, she bought vinegar. So she says to her father, "What am I going to do? It's almost Shabbos. I don't have time to run to the marketplace to get oil, to switch it out for oil. What can I do? I made a mistake." He says, "Don't worry. Light it." He says, "Mi she'amar lashemen sheyadlik, yomer lachometz sheyadlik." Whoever made the miracle that oil should light will make the miracle that vinegar should light. And she lit the vinegar and it lit, just like oil. The miracle that oil itself lights, we take for granted. We take it for granted that oil lights. So even the first day of the one flask they did have was also a miracle. See, the things that we think are ordinary, that's the way it should be. That itself is a miracle. It's not ordinary. So the first day, lighting the oil of the menorah, that it lasted that first day, that itself was also a miracle. Now that it lasted another 7 days, they say today, if you want to modernize the concept of one day's oil lasting for 8 days, imagine if your phone is on 10% and it lasts you for 3 days, right? Without charging. Right? I'm sure you've seen that. You've seen it all. I've gotten so many text messages of this. But that's the modern explanation of the miracle, right? If you want to understand, right, you only have 1% of your gas tank filled, right? And it's already ringing for you to fill up, and you still drive to Austin and you have no problem, right? And you're not driving a Tesla. So that's understanding that there are things that happen. So why is this holiday 8 days. We said about why we light 7 days plus 1. Okay. But why is the holiday 8 days? So we know the number 7 means nature. But the number 8 means above nature. Right, we have a bris on the 8th day. Anytime you have the number 8, it's going above nature. It's a very interesting thing. If you want to understand, we'll briefly talk about this. It's quite remarkable that exactly what the Torah tells us matches up with science 100% of the time. So we know that a baby is supposed to have his bris on the 8th day, a baby boy. Why? Because it's what the Torah tells us. On the 8th day, right? It's also showing a sign, again, above nature. It's the 8th day. It's not normal for a human being to come to this world from really nothing, right? 9 months of gestation, and then we have labor, which in itself is a miracle, and then you have a baby who's living. Once it gets to the 8th day, it's like above nature. But there's something else in the 8th day. Is that it happens to be that medically, the highest number of vitamin K in the baby's body, it's at its highest on the 8th day. Vitamin K is the coagulant, right? And which stops the bleeding. It's at its highest level of its whole life, by the way, on the 8th day. Right? So we could say, wow, what a coincidence. Or we can say, that's incredible. The same creator of heaven and earth is the same writer, author of the Torah. Right? It's not a coincidence. God says, I'm telling you, I have the inside scoop. I happen to have created it, I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. So, right? So we have that number 8 concept. What we're understanding through Chanukah is that we are way above nature. Our very existence is above nature. We, the Jewish people, mankind, the things that we have. It's an amazing thing. You know what I have in this cup? What do I have? No, what do I have in it? Coffee, right? You take some powder and it makes coffee. Or you take whatever it is, the beans, and they grind it up. And what's if you take different beans? You'll have a different flavor. Why? Who said that these beans should have one flavor and those beans should have a different flavor? And you look at flowers, and why should one seed have one type of flower grow from it and another seed have a different type of flower from it? I mean, we take it for granted because we say, yeah, what do you mean? I went to Lowe's or to Home Depot or to the nursery and I bought some seeds, and boom, it's roses, so it grows roses, and this one is tulips, so it grows tulips. Really? Why does that make sense to anyone? So even the ordinary is a miracle. And that's what we're trying to understand on Chanukah. We're trying to recognize that there is no such thing as ordinary anymore. Our very existence is a miracle. The fact that oil lights, even for 1 second, is also a miracle. There's no such thing as just ordinary. The way our body functions so perfectly is a miracle. So we have a blessing for that. We have a blessing every time we use the restroom. There is a blessing that we say after. That is probably the most incredible blessing we have. That we're saying, Asher yatzarata adam b'chokhmah, that God created man with incredible wisdom. Uvaravo nikavim nikavim chalulim chalulim. God created many pores and holes in our body. You know how many holes we have in our body? Think of how many pores you have. Millions. We have open. We have the esophagus. We have the trachea. Right. We have all of these different parts of our body. Some are closed. They're waiting for food to go through, and it squeezes it and gets it to where it needs to go. Like those ices. Those ices. You squeeze the plastic. That's the way our esophagus works. Right. But then you also have your breathing that has to stay open. It's actually designed in a special way that it can't really, it's like it's flat and then it's like that. So it can't really close. It's unbelievable. It's perfect. We have some organs that are hollow. They better not be full, right? We have a bladder, we have others, our intestines. Those are not supposed to be filled. Then we have the liver. The liver is packed, right? Very interesting. And what's if they were the opposite? We wouldn't be able to function. And what's if all of our fluids seeped out of our holes that we have in our hands? We wouldn't be able to exist. We have chalulim, right? We have all of these different parts of our body that function so perfectly. Galui v'yadu lefnei chisecha. It is clear and open to your holy throne. She'imi patach echad me'ed. If one of them opens up inappropriately, or yisatem echad, or one closes inappropriately, I efshar litkehem lefanecha. We cannot stand for even one moment. Right? That's the blessing we say every time we go to the bathroom. It's an unbelievable blessing to remind us there is no ordinary. It's very easy to get into a state of mind where we think, yeah, it just works. It's amazing, right? Or this Mother Nature, evolution, right? If we want to be intellectually honest, right? And I love asking doctors. I don't know if I mentioned this previously. One of my pet peeves is asking doctors about their profession, about what they understand and what they don't understand, and does any of it make sense? So last week I had a physical therapist in my house, right? We have, thank God, a lot of people come on Shabbos and people coming and going. So I ask him, I tell him, tell me, is there any wisdom in the world that can decipher how every bone fits one with the other? You think of the spine, how perfect it is, with every single, vertebrae being exactly at the right distance from one another with the right cushioning. What do they call that? I don't know what they call it. There's a cushion between each one. What's that? Well, not the discs. There's between them. The cartilage. Okay, thank you. Right, you have the cartilage is perfect between each one. It's an amazing thing. We can bend back, we can bend forward, we can bend forward more than we can bend backwards, hopefully, right? And we can. There are many. It's like our all of our joints. They work differently. Some can turn in. It really is. It's amazing. It's so perfect. And he was, I was asking him, like I do with all doctors, ask them, about the eyes. We mentioned last week about the eye, right? There's 70 nerves to the eyes. That's why it's called ayin. Ayin is the number 70, right? It's the numerical value of 70. There's no random. Everything in Torah makes perfect sense. We just have to understand it. So there's another aspect of menorah I want to talk about. And that is that it's the only mitzvah. It's the only mitzvah that we put by our front door or our window. We don't see you put the matzah by your front window, right? We don't put our Megillah on Purim, right, at the front window. We don't put our lulav and etrog and hang it up outside, right, in front of. It's the oddest mitzvah. Right, it's on the doorpost, but it's not. You don't. Here is a special mitzvah on Chanukah of Pirsumei Niseh, publicizing the miracle. What? We had greater miracles than Chanukah. We had Pesach, right? We were slaves for 210 years. We had nothing, and we come out rich people, right? We came out. It says that each person came out with 90 donkeys filled with riches. Each person, right? All from the Egyptians, right? It's okay. You know that a few years ago, the Egyptian government filed a lawsuit against the state of Israel for all of the riches we stole, so to speak, from them back at the Exodus. So Israel sent them back a bill for 210 years of slavery plus interest. They said, okay, fine. So, on both sides, right? So it really is. It's an unbelievable thing that specifically by Chanukah, while we had miracles, every holiday celebrating different miracles, over here we're going to place it outside. We're going to show it to the world, and there's a special mitzvah. You know from what time? From when sunset hits. So tonight sunset will be at. I'll tell you at. We actually wait 13 minutes after sunset, but 5:27. So at 5:40 today we light. 5:40 today we light. And every day for the next 8 days we'll light at 5:40, 5:42. It gets a little later. Till when do we keep the menorah lit? Well, it says till people stop walking in the marketplace. Means if you already have no more cars passing outside at 9 o'clock at night, that's already the time that the menorah does not need to stay lit. Now, many of us have candles. Candles last about a half hour, 45 minutes, right? But if you have oil, how much oil do you have to put in? Well, yeah, I fill up my cup. I want it to last again because we said that lighting the menorah is like lighting the menorah in the temple. So I want the menorah to light as long as possible. I would love to wake up in the morning and see my menorah still lit, right? It doesn't happen, but I would love to. But you want to have that light. We'll talk about something else about looking at the menorah in 1 minute. But it's an incredible thing that we have a special mitzvah to place the menorah. You don't keep it inside for yourself, but you put it out by the window. Yes.
Can we still light the candles, but also have an electric one?
Oh, for sure.
Does that count?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we get points for that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I do that actually at the Torch Center. I do that because of danger, because there are many people coming and going. I don't want to take any risks. Yes.
I read this morning that in Israel they actually sell glass boxes to put your Chanukah in.
That's correct.
So you can put it
Right. That is correct. I have that as well. They sell them here. I mean, not in maybe in Houston they might have it at the Judaica store, but it's a glass container that has openings on top so that it can breathe. Right, and basically you open up the glass in the back of it. It's like a glass door. You light your menorah and then you close it, and that way it can last also in the wind and it can stay outside and it's safer. But either way, what was the challenge the Jewish people were facing with the Greeks? Assimilation. But there was something else. Is that they were hiding from their own Judaism. You see, when we hide from our own Judaism, essentially what we're saying is that I'm not so proud to be Jewish. I'm hiding, I'm shying away. It's like, some people feel that if they wear their yarmulke, if they wear their Judaism on their sleeve, and people might judge them, they might act to them in an odd way, they might call them names. It's funny, when I drove down from New York when we moved 15 years ago, so my mother-in-law, she grew up in Washington Heights. She grew up in a different generation where it was, anti-Semitism. Her father's a survivor, right? So she grew up with this whole idea that anti-Semitism is like, it's rampant and it's all over the place. So she says, do me a favor, when you get to like a gas station, like wear a cap or something so nobody can know that you're Jewish. Like just because anti-Semitism in the South, turns out, right? I literally have not had one experience of anti-Semitism in all of my 15 years in Houston. Right? Or anywhere in the South.
What about Vidor? Have you been through Vidor, Texas?
No, I haven't been there. But I would happily and proudly walk around. I would happily walk around with my tzitzis hanging out and with my yarmulke on my head very, very proudly, and with my firearm on my hip. Okay, so so
There's a point too that, like my parents, I remember, you didn't make waves. It was that you wanted to fit in, and there was that they felt no disrespect to their Judaism whatsoever because they were such community activists, my father in particular. However, being a part of the community was very important to them.
mm-hmm.
And that and I can
Well,
understand
100%.
where they're coming from. You don't want to.
Do you know that there's a special mitzvah that when we give charity, we prioritize to Jewish institutions? But the halacha says that we should give to non-Jewish institutions for the sake of peace, so that they see that we don't only take, we give. And if you look today, it's an amazing, remarkable thing. Look at museums, look at hospitals, you'll see Jewish names everywhere. It really is remarkable. That's our responsibility. And I'll tell you why. We learned that from the Chanukah menorah. The menorah we place specifically by our windows because we're saying we're not going to shy away from our responsibility. We're going to wear that Judaism with pride. We're going to wear it on our sleeves. We're going to put it by our front window. We're not going to hide our Judaism. We're going to recognize that, you know what? We are to be a light to the nations. That's our job, to be a light to the nations. So when people ask what morals and ethics are to be, they should say, look at the Jewish people. That's what they should say. And we should be an example for it. What honesty is, what proper business conduct is, what ethics are, what how we treat our fellow human being. It's an amazing thing. That if you have in Iran an earthquake, you know who the first country is to volunteer? Israel. I don't understand. I really don't. Iran wakes up every morning. You know what they say? Death to Israel. Right? That's the way they wake up. We say, Moda'ani, thank you Hashem for giving us life. They say, God, make this the day that we wipe Israel off the map. And, so it's only the leaders. Fine. And what do you think they say in Saudi Arabia? And what do you think they say in Kuwait and in Qatar and all those other places? We can't be blind. We know that every single one of those nations has arrows and missiles and tanks aiming towards Jerusalem, aiming towards our homeland. And yet, when they have a trouble, we're the first to say, hey, did someone say earthquake? We're ready to help, right? We're ready to help. Are we crazy? No. We're an example for the world. That's our job. Our job is to be an example for the nations. And it's an amazing thing. I have people stop me all the time. Sometimes my wife, it'll be like a Thursday night, my wife say, I forgot to add one more thing to the shopping list. Can you just run out? And the only place that's open is Walmart. So I'll run to Walmart. There's one not far from my house, a neighborhood Walmart. So it's a big grocery store if you're not familiar. And I'll run, and it's not always the best neighborhood to hang out in. So I'm there, and I see with the corner of my eye, this guy's big guy in a tank top, tattooed top to bottom. And I'm like, just no eye contact. I'm just like continuing to go down the aisle. The guy stops, says, excuse me. I'm like, yeah. I'm looking up, and he says, you Jewish? I'm like, yeah, take my money. I don't know what you want from me. And he says to me, what are those strings? I explained to him what the tzitzis are. I say it's a commandment in the Torah. The Torah says that any four-cornered garment, Chef says, God bless Jewish people. Right? God bless you. Right? And it really is, it's remarkable. There are times that people come to me and they say to me, I don't understand why Jews run away from being a light to the nations. We try to assimilate and try to run away from that responsibility. It's like imagine you're the captain of the team. You say, you know what? I don't want to act as the captain. Why not? That's your job. Right? That's our responsibility. When we're not successful as Jewish people is when we run away from that responsibility. On Chanukah, what we're saying is we're relighting, reaffirming that task. We're putting it right by our front window, and we're going to be proud. We're not going to hide it. We want our neighbors to see it. We want our friends to see it. But there's something else also. Like we mentioned earlier, light doesn't distinguish when you share it with others. It only expands when you show it to others. When you shine your light to other people, now you're lighting their light. And that light will hopefully inspire others. We have unbelievable powers, unbelievable abilities that we can on Chanukah. So I want to share with you, I don't know how much time, we still have some time. Okay, so I want to share with you another idea about Chanukah. The same verses we mentioned earlier that you should light, that you light in your courtyard of your holy places, which is obviously now we understand our homes. It also says, V'ra'ita et pnei menorah. You should see the light of your menorah. You should see, look at the light of your menorah. It's a very interesting halacha. Okay, it says in Jewish law that you're not supposed to benefit from the light of the Chanukah menorah. Okay? So, tonight, at 5:40, you light the menorah. You sing your Chanukah songs. You have your lights off so that it can shine out. And then take a few minutes by yourself and just sit and look at the menorah. Sit and gaze at the menorah. And it says that the holiness of the menorah purifies your eyes. It purifies your eyes. It really is an incredible and remarkable mitzvah. Right? You're not allowed to enjoy from the menorah. It means if you have to you want to read the paper. I'm sitting here. I'm sitting by the menorah's light. Let me at least read the paper. So you open up the Houston Chronicle and you don't have light because you turned off the light so that your menorah can shine. And now you can't use the light of the menorah. You can't use it for anything. You're not supposed to use the light of menorah. You cannot benefit, right? You cannot benefit. Yeah, Shabbos light you can. That's correct. The Shabbos light, no problem.
I was just also going to say about Shabbos, aren't you supposed to enjoy those lights?
Absolutely. Where do you think, you go to a restaurant, a nice restaurant, you have a romantic dinner, they have a candle. Where do you think they got it from? From the Shabbos candles, right? That's where it comes from, right? We brought this idea of bringing romance to our table, to our dinner table, right? But you have an amazing gift of these menorahs that it says it purifies our eyes. And just as a side note, okay, I don't think there's a generation that needs more purification of the eyes than ours, right? If you think about what goes on television, what goes on in movies, what goes on it is absolutely reprehensible that you have such depravity and such lowliness on online, on YouTube. I mean, it really is crazy, right? We need to purify ourselves. This is what our sages tell us. So very interesting words that we say after we light the menorah. We don't have any rights and any permission to use these lights to our benefit. Only to gaze upon them. We use the light of the menorah only to look at them. And you sit for a few minutes and just enjoy the beautiful, pristine light of the menorah. There's two other things I want to share here. Number one is that what is fire? Aish. Fire is the only thing in this world that is also physical and also spiritual. You see this right here. I pick this up. What happens if I drop it? Is it going to stay where it is? Is it going to go up? No, it's going to go down, right? Fire is the only thing, because it's physical. I take these keys, what's going to happen? I leave go of it, it drops. Right? A balloon has helium, but eventually it drops, okay? You take fire, fire goes up. Now, fire is spiritual, because I can put my hand, I'm sure we've all done this, even though our parents told us not to, right? You have a fire and a candle, and you put your finger through it, and it's no problem. Look at that. That's spiritual. It's not actually physical. But if it's physical, because if you leave your hand there, you feel it's burning you. So it's physical and spiritual combined. That's why we light the Shabbos candles. We start Shabbos with the Shabbos candles. Because what is the days of the week? It says, Sheshet Yamim Tavod, the 6 days of the week are days for us to work and toil and non-stop be active. Physical things. We try to earn a living. Shabbos is a day of spirituality. Shabbos is a day that we take all of the physical and we elevate it. So what do we use to create that? Candles. Because candles takes a physical and makes it spiritual. It lifts it up. So all of our physical activities that we do, my kids ask me on Shabbos sometimes, they ask me, who are the Texans playing on Sunday? You know what I answered them? The Texans don't play anyone on Shabbos. Right? There's no such thing as football on Shabbos. On Shabbos, I don't deal with the weekday activities. I know. Right? But after Shabbos, I said, guess what? They actually played. Right? And they won. But where are we going this week? On vacation, right? We don't go anywhere on Shabbos.
Or you don't even want to talk
I
about
don't. You don't talk about it. You know why? Because the Talmud tells us that if you plan on Shabbos, it doesn't work out. Because Shabbos is a time of rest. It's a time of menucha. It's a time where you don't stress about details. You don't stress about anything. If you plan on Shabbos, it's likely not going to work out. Yes.
Could you tell us about the menorah for Hanukkah and what it's called?
The Chanukah?
Is that,
Well, there's many different.
somebody said to me once that was not the right thing to call it, and I always thought it was a Hanukkah.
Right. You can call it Chanukah. You can call it a menorah. Chanukah is a little bit more modern, but menorah is the original. The original.
But Hanukkah is acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I had never heard that it wasn't.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a. Nah, it's fine. It's fine. It's just the modern way. It's like there are many ways you can say, and various different words. There, you have. It's fine. It's a different. It's more of the modern Israeli way they say it, the Chanukah, but it's fine.
There's a duality when we talk about the spirituality of candles and oil burning for so many days, and at the same time, we have information about forest fires that are also flames. How do you
So
figure that?
So everything that we will learn in the coming years together, we will see that everything could be used for good and it could be used for bad. Everything. It really is remarkable. Food could be used for very good. It can also be used for very bad. Right? You eat too much. Right? I'll give you my weak spot is barbecue potato chips. Okay, I love barbecue potato chips. There's no such thing as taking one chip. There's no such thing. You get immersed in that bag. But we all know that you finish the bag, you feel like you have like a brick in your stomach, right? You feel horrible because there's it really is not, it's not pleasant. So there needs to be balance, right? Fire needs to be balanced as well. Yeah, and if you throw your cigarette butt into dry land, you'll burn the whole place up. That's
Of course, those fires are necessary to rejuvenate land as well. So
that's correct.
move it
That-
both ways.
That's why you have to have forest management, right? That's why they do it. They do it intentionally. When I was in Yellowstone National Park, what was it, maybe 17, 18 years ago, there were huge areas of land that were burnt intentionally. They were intentionally burnt because, I don't exactly know how they do it, but they or why they did it, but they did it, what's that? Controlled burning, correct. So now I want to share with you something personal though, okay? But just so we can finish this idea and we'll end off with that. So Chanukah is taking, it's a very interesting thing that we have holidays. Pesach, 50 days later we have Shavuot. Then we have other, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. Then we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. And then we have a 6-month stretch between Sukkot and Pesach. And there are 2 rabbinic holidays that are placed in the middle, Chanukah and Purim. It really is amazing. Why are they placed exactly where they're placed? So it also happens to be that on the 25th day of Kislev, which is tomorrow, was the day that the temple was finished being built. It was ready. All of its pieces, everything was ready to go. And this is the commemoration. It's where it says in the Torah, sort of a hint in the Torah of Hanukkah, because it was this day that the menorah in the temple was ready to be lit. It wasn't lit till the 1st of Nisan, which is several months down the road. But it was ready, everything was ready on this day. But our sages tell us that to go 6 months without a holiday is a very long time. What's the purpose of a holiday? Is to re-energize us, to reinvigorate our faith, our connection. And we don't have anything. So we have Chanukah. Chanukah is a time where we reaffirm our faith. We reaffirm our connection with God. You know, in Judaism, there's no mitzvah in the Torah to believe in God. There's only a mitzvah to know God, to have knowledge. To believe, which, by the way, my wife and I are doing a program for our young adults. We're taking a leap of faith, and we're going to go skydiving. Right? So I'll tell you. So I'm not a daredevil. My wife is. Okay, she does the bungee jumping and she does all that crazy stuff, and she loves it. She's like a thrill seeker. She'll go on there's no such thing as a roller coaster that's too much for her. I mean, she'll do it and she'll turn around and no problem. For me, a Ferris wheel, I'm terrified. Okay, it's not for me. Even an escalator is a little bit too much for me. Right? So, but it really is. So she said one year, she says, for our anniversary, I don't want you to buy me anything. I want you to go skydiving with me. I said, fine, I'll go skydiving. But only if my rabbi says that it's okay. Because the Torah tells us, you cannot put yourself in danger. You have to watch over your body. It's in Deuteronomy. So I was hoping my rabbi would say, you know what, it's danger and this and that. I called my rabbi, he says, nah, it's not a problem. So rabbi shopping, right? So the rabbi said, it's not a problem. He said, go, enjoy. I'm like, enjoy? That's already pushing it, right? So I said, I'll go, I'll survive. So we went. My wife bought the thing. We went, we're all harnessed up, we're ready to go, and then we see our names on the board, and I go and like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be a big boy. It's my wife's anniversary gift. This is what she wants. We'll do it. We get to the runway, getting on the plane, and the engine goes off, and they're like, we have a problem with the plane. No more. I'm like, yes! Right? So we never actually did it, right? And my wife's like, I can't believe this, whatever. Okay, so either way, I'm like, this is terrible. I can. Exactly, you know. So either way, so my wife wants now. She has a rain check. No, she has a rain check. So you know, we'll do this. We'll do it with our young adults, and it'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure. But the idea is like this: in Judaism, there's no such thing as a leap of faith. There is no such thing as a leap of faith. Right? In Judaism, it goes by knowledge of the Almighty. When we look at our body and we see how it functions, and we're not idiots, right? And we just really study it. It's like it's unbelievable. You cannot understand how a human being functions without believing with a clear knowledge that there is a creator. It is impossible. You know what? So when I was doing my study for the EMT course, that was the one area I started crying. I'm sitting over there with my books. I'm listening to a lecture on the computer, and I started crying. Right? Because they're talking about the respiratory system. They're talking about how your blood gets pumped. It's just like, so, you know, we have oxygenated blood, and we have deoxygenated blood. Right? The blood goes to all of our extremities, right? To our brain, to our toes, to our skin. It's oxygenated through our lungs, and then it gets sent back deoxygenated. That's the blue that you see. The blue is deoxygenated. The red is going to, and the blue is coming from. Just a little course on our, right? So, how does that work? How does that work that there's an exchange in the alveoli of our deoxygenated with air that we breathe that's now oxygenating it? And it just works. You know how many times it works a day? 67,000 times a day. Okay? It's unbelievable. And you know what? We don't even know it. We just breathe. And we're just like, if we have an issue, we're like, doctor, what's the matter? What's the matter? You have a billion things that need to go right for you to be able to breathe. They have to be functioning in total synchronicity, with total perfection. It's unbelievable. The gift of life. So, we have knowledge of the Almighty. We look at things that go on in the world. Knowledge of the Almighty. We have to have knowledge. We don't have a leap of faith. That's other religions have a leap of faith. We're the only religion that does not use fear. And we're the only ones who push people away when they say they want to come to Judaism. In Christianity, If you believe in our Lord and Savior, right, then you'll get heaven. Otherwise, what are you? Eternal damnation. Eternal damnation, right? Gone, right? You're going to burn in hell, right? That's the other religions. They have to terrify you. What do we say? We say, no, 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 no. You don't have to be Jewish. Why would you convert? You can be of the nations of the world, and you can be righteous. And you don't need to come to Judaism to be righteous. You don't need to be a Jew that has 613 commandments. You can just accept 7 commandments, and you're perfect. What's the problem? So someone comes and says they want to convert. Why convert? You can get away with 7. Why with 613? Why do you need the whole burden of all the commandments? You don't have to keep Shabbos if someone who's non-Jewish, right? They don't have to limit themselves to all the mitzvahs. It's not a limitation. It happens to be it's a freedom. When we understand all the mitzvahs, we'll see how it really is an amazing gift of freedom. But you have knowledge of the Almighty. Islam, by the way, if you believe in their faith, right, then no problem. You'll get however many virgins you get up in heaven, right, whatever they have in their thing. But if you don't believe, you're an infidel. They will put you to death. In Judaism, we don't have such a thing. We don't have such a thing. On the contrary, right? There's no leap of faith. By the way, it's the only religion that every other religion believes in too. That means Muslims and Christians both believe in the Torah. But no one believes in the Christian Bible except for the Christians. No one believes in the Quran except for the Muslims. But everyone agrees with the Torah. Okay, everyone says, oh, well, the Jewish people sinned, so they're no longer the chosen people. So we're the chosen people. It's like, imagine this, like Muhammad, right? Muhammad had a dream where he says God spoke to him and he said the Jewish people are no longer the chosen people, so we are. So let me ask you a question. We have 2 siblings who are fighting over the father's inheritance, right? So one brother wakes up in the morning, he says, it's all my money, right? All the 400 million that dad left over is for me. He says, what do you mean it's for you? He says, yeah, I had a dream last night. Dad came to me in a dream. He said, it's all yours. So what does the brother say? That's a little stupid. If dad wanted you to get it, he would come to me in the dream and tell me to give it to you. He'd come to you in the dream, right? So God came to Muhammad to tell him, you're the that's crazy. And there's no proof to it. There's no proof to it. Right? Muhammad had a dream. Believe it or you're dead. Right? Jesus, right? He had his revelation. No one else had that revelation with him. It was only him. In Judaism is a revelation that's in front of 600,000 men between the age of 20 and 60. You multiply the women. You multiply the children. You multiply the seniors. You multiply the Egyptians that joined them. You're talking about over 3 million people standing there that all heard the same words, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. There's a question. There's no faith. There's no leap of faith. It's knowledge. We all heard it, which is why one of the most important parts of Torah is believing that the Torah is from Sinai. Because if we don't believe in that fundamental principle, the rest of the Torah doesn't fit in. We have to believe in that revelation. Because if there isn't that revelation, then where does the Torah come from? Okay, we can get into that, but I want to share with you, I told you my personal thing. So Chanukah for me is a very special holiday on a personal level, because when I was 7 months old, I was hospitalized in critical condition. I had meningitis, and it was not the type that you just take a medication and you go home. It was, my parents said that all the beds next to me, right, in the hospital, this one was blind, and this one became deaf, and this one became, or many of them didn't survive. And thank God it was the first night of Chanukah that I came home. I was in the hospital for 10 days, and it was like a miracle of Chanukah that I was able to come home. So for me, it's like we always celebrated the first night of Chanukah as my birthday, so to speak, my second birthday that I had, because of this miracle. So it gives me an extra opportunity to thank Hashem. Now I want to share with you one more idea. There's so much to talk about, and there's no time. I can talk for 24 hours now. So I want to share with you one more idea. Many times we have additions to our prayer, and if you remember to say it, great. If you don't remember to say it, it's fine. All right? It's not that it's fine, it's just you don't go back and repeat the whole prayer. Right? Most of the times you have to repeat the whole prayer. But by Chanukah, we add a special part to the prayer. Both our grace after meals to the benching and to the Amidah, we add a special part, Bimei Matityahu, right? We add a special few verses we add to our Amidah. And if you forget it, you don't go back. Why don't you go back? By Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month, if you forget to say Yalav Yav on the Amidah, you forget to say those extra passages, you repeat the whole Amidah again. You say it all over again. Chanukah, you don't repeat it. Because what we say in those passages for Chanukah is we're saying thank you. If you forget to say thank you, you don't deserve a second chance. Thank you, you don't forget. And this connects to what we spoke about last week. We spoke about appreciation and giving proper gratitude. You don't forget to say thank you. And if you forget, there's no second chance. Right? When we were saved, and it's amazing, we look at that prayer, we say, Giborim biyad halashim. The mighty, right, were taken by the weak. Right? Rabim biyad me'atim. The Greeks had many soldiers. How many did we have? Very few. Just 13. It says that they shot an arrow and 22,000 Greeks died. Right? It was like unbelievable miracles. If we stop and don't say thank you, if we pray and we don't say thank you, we don't say it over again. Right? We better remember to say our thank yous. Right? Hashem should bless us that this Hanukkah should be a festival of light like we've never had before. That it should be so holy and awesome. It should be so uplifting. It should be so revealing to us the responsibility that we have and the blessing that we have to be a light unto the nations. The nations are looking to us for guidance. The nations are looking to us for leadership. The nations are looking to us to pave the way. If you look at all of the laws that are in almost every single country in the world, they're all based on the Torah. They'll bring Deuteronomy and they'll bring Exodus in their code of law. Because the Torah is the main foundation for all of our world and the way it operates. So we should take pride in it. We light that menorah, put some extra oil in there. We want to show it to the world. We're not going to be shy. We're not going to hide from it. We're only going to bring more light to the world. Amen. Have a terrific Hanukkah, everyone.